The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
This is Christine Langley with the Wyoming Women's Business Center, and I want to welcome you to a system of internal controls. The Wyoming Women's Business Center is a nonprofit organization that helps people who want to start or expand small businesses, specifically in the state of Wyoming. And we do that through three distinct programs. So the first is business training and one-on-one counseling. The second is through access to capital using our microloan program or our individual development accounts programs. And then finally, our professional artist development center. So this QuickBooks training series is brought to you by our microloan program, which was started to provide access to funds for those unable to get business loans through traditional means. So if you'd like more information on our microloan program, you can contact Waldo Smith. And now I'd like to turn it over to Derek Campbell with Capital Clarity Company for our presentation today. Welcome, Derek.
Thank you, Christine. So like Christine mentioned, today I just want to touch base with everybody about internal controls. So this isn't necessarily specific to QuickBooks, but it is super important for all businesses, regardless of their size. Every business should have procedures, plans, and policies in place to ensure that their organization operates as efficiently and effectively as possible. These plans or operational measures could monitor the firm's assets, prevent fraud, minimize errors, authenticate the accuracy of the accounting data, and even go so far as to promote efficiency of operation. So that's just a basic there, and I want to dive a little deeper. So what is internal controls? At one point in time, internal controls were generally used to test, evaluate, and validate accounting and financial transactions, information and data, and to assure accuracy in financial reporting. Then came the internet and rapid advances in technology. All sorts of new processes were put into place. And from such restructuring, internal control systems are now used to test, evaluate, and validate all aspects of a business's operations and administration to ensure, and this is the basic core of internal controls, to ensure that management objectives are being fulfilled and established, whether that's administrative, operational, or financial policies. So the objectives of internal controls. Internal controls are controls a business establishes, and they should be inclusive of all encompassing and should extend to administrative and operational systems as well. Keep in mind that the objectives of internal control systems are to achieve organizational goals, operational efficiencies, compliance with laws and regulations. They are used to safeguard assets against waste, fraud, misuse, and other unauthorized use of resources, and also to create accurate and proper reporting and recording of revenue and other data. So that kind of brings me to my next point, which is that there are all kinds of types of internal controls these days. The most common is accounting, but there's also administrative, operational, preventative, and detective internal control systems. All of these are designed to achieve specific organizational objectives and compliance with management decisions. So since this is a webinar series about QuickBooks and accounting, I want to talk more specifically about accounting controls. So accounting controls ensure that financial transactions are properly authorized and reported. Access to assets is properly authorized. Excuse me, I think I advanced a little too quickly. Financial statements are prepared correctly, and assets are recorded and periodically compared and reconciled with existing assets. And then regardless of the sophistication of your accounting system, you should also accomplish your internal control system should also yield an accurate and thorough picture of operating results. It should allow you to compare current data with prior data. It should provide financial statements that management can use and your lenders could use and even potential creditors may use. You should be able to facilitate prompt filing or reports, and then tax agencies or regulatory and tax collecting government agencies should be able to use those reports as well. And then also you should be able to expose employee fraud, waste, or record keeping errors. So with all of that boring jargon, I want to just dive into my 4 basic guidelines for small businesses, because small businesses usually operate on such a limited staff and limited budget. I really kind of just harp on these main 4 things that I think all businesses should implement, especially if you have employees in your business. The first one, make sure that the manager or the owner of the business is signing all checks, or at least signing off on all expenses. This includes payroll checks. So if that means signing off on timesheets before the accountant pays or files payroll, make sure you're doing that. This precaution forces the owner or the manager to keep close watch on all of the expenditures of the business. I also would like to say that under no conditions should you give your accountant, bookkeeper, or if you have a chief accountant within your organization, you shouldn't give them check signing authority. If those people have the ability to record transactions and also sign off on transactions, it's going to be very easy for them to conceal a fraud, and it'd be very difficult for the manager to even catch that. Another one, and this is maybe even for employee morale purposes as well, but mandate vacations. You know, the owner and manager should require that employees, especially employees working in high-risk areas, if that means that they're in charge of cash receipts, cash disbursements, receivables, if they're managing inventory, require them to take a vacation of some sort throughout the year. And it has to be a little bit of an extended vacation, you know, more than just a couple days. The biggest reason for this is to conceal many types of fraud. The guilty employee, they have to have access to maintain sole control over the accounts and other paperwork that they're using to carry out their fraud. So if you mandate a vacation and have another employee fill in while they're on vacation, it's going to be much more difficult for them to maintain that fraud, and it'll also be much easier for a different employee to probably spot something suspicious. I also recommend get 2 sets of eyes on everything. If you're in a small business and you're operating on a limited staff, segregation of duties is usually not as practical as what could be ideal. But owners and managers, you should consider implementing job sharing, in which 2 or more employees are regularly assigned to one area of the business, and maybe they alternate weeks or on some other schedule. That way, with this arrangement, employees may notice if the other employee is committing some sort of fraud. The last thing is watch out for questionable spending. Without violating privacy, you should keep an eye on the lifestyles of your employees. If you have a bookkeeper on staff and your bookkeeper is buying a new Mercedes or taking a frequent vacation to Las Vegas, you may start to question where that money is coming from. And as the owner and manager, you know your employees' salaries, so you'll be able to make a judgment on what level of lifestyle that employee may be able to afford. So just use your common sense and judgment there, and keep an eye out for things that don't quite fit the sniff test. Those are my recommendations on internal controls and kind of an overview of what internal controls are. And with that, I'll pass it back to Christine.
Thanks, Derek. So the Wyoming Women's Business Center is made possible through several partnership agencies, and our primary funding comes from the U.S. Small Business Administration and the Wyoming Business Council. And so we thank them and other funders for their support. If you'd like more information on the Wyoming Women's Business Center, this is our contact information. Our business counseling is always free, and please contact us with any questions. If you are interested in our microloan program, again, please contact Waldo Smith. And thanks everybody for joining us today.